Watching Teacher Cyrus, and today we will study about the actual questions na lumabas sa LET September 2019. So focusing on social studies. I will give you 10 questions and we will discuss bakit yan ang tamang sagot. So we will read questions and answer it with rationalization. So, hindi na natin patatagalin pa, we will start our discussion. So, the first question is that, Angel's theory is that as income increases, the percentage of income spent on non-food items also increases. To what sector will this principle not apply? So, letter A, entrepreneurs, B, middle class, C, unemployed, D, corporate managers. So, we will start our rationalization. So, ang ating hahanapin dito is that income. So, saan sa kanila ang merong income? So, is it entrepreneur? Meron bang income ang entrepreneur? Yes, they do have income. So, because they are entrepreneurs. So, if we will say middle class, do they have an income? Yes, they do have an income. So, paano sila matatawag na middle class if they don't have an income? Or corporate managers, they do have income? Yes, they do have income. So wala nang ibang sagot kundi si letter C, unemployed. So paano magkakaroon ng income ang isang unemployed person? So that's why letter C is the correct answer. There are non-conventional sources of energy that can be harnessed to soften adverse consequences on the economy. But blank is not one of them. So, ang hanapin natin is non-conventional sources of energy. So, is it letter A, wind turbines, B, geothermal, C, fossil fuel, or letter D, solar panels? So, but before that, ang hinahanap natin dito is non-conventional source of energy. But ang tanong, so what is non-conventional energy? So kapag sasabihin natin na conventional is that it's all about renewable energy and also environmental friendly. So yaong mga renewable energy and also yaong environment friendly na ating source na pinagkukunan natin ng kuryente that is considered as non-conventional. So ang tanong, so saan dito ang hindi non-conventional? Is it letter A, wind turbines? So is it wind turbines considered non-conventional? So yes, it is renewable energy. So kasi ginagamit natin ang hangin upang makakuha tayo ng energy. Letter B, geothermal. So kumukuha tayo ng source of electricity so through sa init ng ating mundo. So letter C, fossil fuel. So is it fossil fuel? So if we will say fossil fuel, so that is gumagamit tayo ng gasolina, so as a source of energy. Or letter D, solar panels. So wala nang ibang sagot, si letter C, fossil fuels. Number 3. So economically speaking, which is a glorious period? So maraming nalilito sa question na ito. So letter A, stability, B, depression, C, boom, or letter D, recession. So, ang tamang sagot dito is boom. So, but before ating rationalization, we will explain that later on. Kasi maraming lumabas sa LET na paulit-ulit ang choices na makikita sa questions. So, kaya we will discuss it later. So, ang tamang sagot is letter C, economic boom. So, number 4, which economic system is otherwise known as free enterprise? Is it letter A, capitalism, letter B, communism, C, mixed economics, or letter D, totalitarianism? So, ang ating hinahanap dito is anong economic system ang free enterprise? So, is it capitalism? Letter B, communism. So, kapag sasabihin natin communism, if we will relate it on economics, so ang communism is public property. So, all the establishments are owned by the government kasi all peoples are in common. So, magkapareho lang. So letter C, mixed economics. So kapag sasabihin nating mixed economics, that is pinaghalong capitalism at socialism. So so the great example of mixed economics, I think, is wala. Kasi kapag sasabihin natin China, so hindi sila matatawag na mixed economics kasi they are socialist. So they use the essence of communism upang sila ay lumago. So letter D is totalitarianism. So kapag sasabihin natin totalitarianism, ruler has full authority to everyone. So ang pangulo or ang hari ay merong authority sa lahat ng establishments. So, pwede niyang angkinin yan. So, for example, so during the time of Nazi Germany, so sa panahon ni Hitler, so that is the best example of totalitarianism. So, ang tamang sagot is capitalism. So, ang capitalism is also known as free enterprise. Adam Smith believed that the desire of business people to earn a profit, when regulated by competitive, would produce what consumers want. Hence, government should not interfere. Smith's philosophy is known as blank. A. Democratic socialism, B. Socialism, C. Laissez-faire, or letter D. Modified free enterprise. So, we will rationalize it. So, kapag sasabihin nating democratic socialism, magkatulad lang sila ng mixed economics. Or mixed economics means na pinaghalong capitalism at socialism. Kapag sasabihin nating letter B, is it socialism? So kapag sasabihin nating socialism, so merong kinuhang principles na mula sa communism upang lumago ang kanilang ekonomiya. So based on experience, or based on the countries na ating makikita, so through books, walang komunistang bansa ang naging mayaman. So look North Korea, so they are purely communist. So look Cuba, so they are also purely communist. So kapag sasabihin natin komunista, so walang gustong makipagsapalaran. So walang gustong mag-invest sa bansang yaon. Kasi, ang lahat ng property is pagmamay-ari ng gobyerno. So, kapag sasabihin natin socialism, so meron silang kinuhang prinsipyo. So, I think kinuha nila na all properties must be owned by the government. So, all companies must be owned by the government. So, I think kinuha nila yaon. So, upang lumago ang kanilang ekonomiya. So, the best example of socialist countries are China and Vietnam. So, tingnan naman natin Vietnam is lumalago sila. So, because they used socialist way of government. Letter C, laissez-faire. So, kapag sasabihin natin laissez-faire, so it is from the French word which means belief, economics, and business function. So, kapag sasabihin natin laissez-faire, so mas lalago daw ang business or ang ekonomiya kapag ang gobyerno ay hindi makihalubilo or hindi sasali sa agreement sa business. So that's why letter C, that is laissez-faire. So walang participation ang government sa business. I think so merong free enterprise yaon kasi hindi pwedeng sumali ang gobyerno sa business function. Or sa letter D, modified free enterprise. So kapag sasabihin natin modified free enterprise, government places very few restrictions on types of business activities or ownership. Kapag sasabihin natin modified free enterprise, so ang gobyerno is meron silang cooperation with business function. But kakaunti lang ang restrictions. Kakaunti lang ang restrictions, so that is capitalism. So ano kaya ang tamang sagot? So tapos na nating tapos ng ating rationalization, so ano kaya ang tamang sagot? Is it letter A, democratic socialism? Is it letter B, socialism? Or C, laissez-faire? Or letter D, modified free enterprise? So wala nang iba. Ang tamang sagot is letter C, laissez-faire. So kasi, ayon sa theory ni Adam Smith, so dapat hindi sumali ang gobyerno sa business function upang lumago ang business. What economic situation where one company controls the supply of a unique kind of product? So is it letter A, inflation, letter B, monopoly, C, equilibrium, or letter D, economic stability? So ano kaya ang tamang sagot? So kapag sasabihin natin inflation, so inflation is sustained increase of price levels. So kapag sunod-sunod ang pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin, tinatawag yang inflation. Kapag sasabihin naman nating monopoly, so single seller of a certain product. So isa lang ang nagbebenta sa produktong yaon. Or letter C, equilibrium. So kapag sasabihin nating equilibrium it is supply and demand are balanced. So equilibrium in economics is considered healthy. So that is one of the wants of the government to have a balanced supply and demand. So that is equilibrium. Or letter D, economic stability. So kapag sasabihin natin economic stability, it is stable prices and sustainable growth. So ang presyo ng bilihin is stable. So hindi tumataas, hindi tataas, or hindi bababa ang presyo. So that is economic stability. At saka sustainable growth. So kasi stagnant ang presyo ng bilihin, so kapag tataas ang sahod ng mga manggagawa, so dadami rin ang kanilang gustong bilhin. So that is economic stability. So that's why economic stability is considered healthy. So in terms of economics. So ano kaya ang tamang sagot? So madali lang ang sagot. So we can answer it without rationalization. The correct answer is letter B, monopoly. The growth of a free economy follows the path of a roller coaster. Which one is referred to as the brief and small decline in business activity? Letter A, depression. Letter B, recession. C, boom. Or D, stability. So kapag sasabihin nating depression, so ang hinahanap dito is a free economy follows the path of a roller coaster. So kapag sasabihin nating roller coaster, tataas, bababa. So lalago, babagsak, lalago, babagsak. So ano ang tawag yan? Anong tawag dyan sa economics? Is it letter A, depression? So letter B, recession. C, boom. Or D, stability. Kapag sasabihin nating depression, that is long-term downturn in economic activity. Kapag sasabihin nating depression, best example of depression is that kapag merong sakuna. So for example, ang depression is so in China, so they do have economic depression. So because of coronavirus. So instead, they spend outside. So meron maglalakwatsa ang mga insect. So because of coronavirus, wala. So they always stayed in their homes. So that's why many companies are affected with this coronavirus. So that is considered as depression. So kapag mataas ang there is a long period of economic activity is low, so that is considered as depression. So kapag sasabihin nating depression is pababa lang. So ang hinahanap is roller coaster. Kapag sasabihin nating recession, that is decline of economic activity. So decline lang, kaunti lang pagbagsak. So kapag sasabihin nating letter C, boom, so pataas yan kasi it is a peak phase of business cycle. Kapag sasabihin naman natin letter D, stable prices and sustainable growth. So, sobrang positive si letter C at saka si letter D. Pero, ang hinahanap natin is positive, negative. Tumaas at bumaba. So, gaya ng roller coaster. So, kaya sa letter C at sa letter D, we will neglect it in our choices kasi halatang halata na hindi sila roller coaster. So, ang ating choices na lang is dalawa na lang. Sa letter A, depression, or sa letter B, recession. So, ano kaya ang tamang sagot? The correct answer is recession. So, kapag sasabihin nating recession, so kaunti lang ang pagbagsak. So, for example, 0.1% ang pagbagsak ng ekonomiya. So, pwede yaong sa next month, babawi sila. So, kasi kaunti lang pagbagsak. So, unlike sa depression, bumagsak talaga. So, for example, the business of the Philippines, so the tourism business of the Philippines is greatly affected so because of coronavirus. Kasi one of the top two tourists in the Philippines, Chinese and Koreans, are affected with coronavirus. So, that's why there are travel advisories. Binana ang Chinese dito sa Philippines, and also some Koreans are hindi gustong umalis sa ibang bansa kasi because of the threat of coronavirus. So, that is depression. So, grabe ang pagbagsak. So, unlike a recession, kaunti lang. So, that's why si letter B ang tamang sagot. Economic recession. The growth has its glorious and not so glorious periods. Which one is referred to as the period of above average business activity? Is it letter A, depression? So letter B, recession. Letter C, boom. Or D, stability. So kapag titingnan natin sa choices, sa letter A at saka sa letter B, negative. So kaya, we will, atin yang tatanggalin. So sa ating choices. So, ang pagpipilian nila natin sa letter C at saka sa letter D. So, kapag sasabihin natin economic boom, tumaas. While si stability, so stable lang. So, hindi tumaas, hindi rin bumaba. So, kaya ang tamang sagot is economic boom. Letter C. Growth of a free economy follows the ups and downs of a roller coaster. Okay, bumalik. Which one is referred to as large drops in economic growth for a comparatively longer period of time? Is it letter A, stability, letter B, recession, letter C, boom, or letter D, depression? So, titingnan natin ang question. So, ang si question number 9 at saka si question number 7. So, kapag titingnan natin sa first sentence, magkapareho lang. But, in the second sentence, or the question proper, magkaiba. So, that's why I teach you that it is important to rationalize questions kasi meron tayong nadaan ng questions na magkatulad ang choices, pero sa panahon na ng pag-take natin ng board is iba ang question na ginamit ni PRC. So, kaya titingnan natin ang question. So, hindi padalos-dalos sa pagsagot. So, dahil familiar ang questions. So, maraming familiar na bumagsak. So, kaya question number 9 is, which one is referred to as large drops? Letter A, stability. So, stability, stable lang. Hindi tumaas, hindi bumaba. So, hindi ang tamang sagot. Letter B, recession. Kaunti lang ang pagbaba. Kaunti. But, the question is large drops. So, kapag sasabihin natin letter C, economic boom, tumaas. So, hindi siya ang tamang sagot. So, the correct answer is letter D, economic depression. Value of all goods and services produced by a country in a given period refers to blank. Letter A, national income. Letter B, GNP. Letter C, net income. Or letter D, per capita. So, underline the word value of all goods and services. So, ano kaya ang tamang sagot? So, kapag sasabihin nating national income, pwede siya. Pwede siya ang sagot. But, ang question is, value of all goods and services. Kapag sasabihin nating income, so yaon ang kita, hindi ang goods and services. So, kaya sa letter A, hindi ang tamang sagot. Kapag sasabihin naman natin sa letter C, net income, so income rin. So, hindi goods and services. So, kaya, letter C is not the correct answer. So, letter D, per capita. So, kapag sasabihin natin per capita, that is the income of a certain person or a certain family. So, that's why per capita is not the correct answer. So, wala nang ibang sagot. Letter B, gross national product or GNP. From the word product itself. So, product and goods and services are clearly related to each other. So, that's why JNP is the correct answer, letter B.